In this video, we're going to talk about some advantages of buying a new construction condo in New York City that's been on the market for a long time or is simply having trouble selling. I'm Nick at Houseit. If you are buying in New York City, we can save you money through a buyer agent commission rebate. You can learn how that works and you can request one by visiting houseit.com. You can also call or text me directly anytime, 888-494-8258. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is the first and primary advantage of buying a new construction condo in New York City that's been sitting on the market for some time? Well, naturally, the first advantage is that the sponsor might be more negotiable. Now, this doesn't necessarily guarantee that there will be huge negotiability on the price, because the price may have already come down over time, but it does suggest that the sponsor may be willing to cover some or all of the traditional sponsor closing costs that the buyer usually pays in the case of a new construction, such as city and state transfer taxes, sponsor legal fees, and perhaps the resident manager contribution, RMU as they call it, which is the pro rata share that you are required to pay basically pay for the super's apartment in the case of a larger building. Perhaps they may cover other things as well, such as the working capital contribution, albeit less commonly, and other things too might be on the table. In some scenarios, you could potentially get a storage cage, discounted parking, perhaps some modifications to the apartment. So it is very situation dependent. We are happy to give you our professional thoughts. And of course, we can save you money through a buyer agent commission rebate. And that leads us into one of the other advantages of buying a new construction condo in New York City that has had trouble selling. And that is the fact that the buyer agent commission might be higher than usual. Now, you might be wondering, what does the buyer agent's compensation have to do with me as the buyer? Why do I care? Why are you even bringing this up? Well, it's because of the fact that you can save money in New York City by receiving a commission rebate when buying new construction or any other type of purchase. So how does that work? Well, here at Houseit, we would basically be your buyer's agent. The sponsor, the developer, would pay us that buyer agent commission, but then instead of keeping all of it, we would give you back the vast majority of it. So naturally, if the sponsor is paying a higher buyer agent commission and we're giving you the vast majority of that back, if the sponsor's paying, 4% or 5% commission, that means that you will receive a much larger discount in the form of a bigger buyer agent commission rebate. So you can learn more about how rebates work, and you can request a rebate on our website, houseit.com. Another advantage of buying a new development condo in New York City that's been sitting on the market is that the sponsor may be more willing to entertain a mortgage contingency. Now, just a bit of backstory on this. So if you're buying a non-new development apartment in New York City, there's generally little or no issue with respect to you getting a mortgage contingency in the absence of a cash buyer who is bidding the same price. But with new developments, particularly developments that have just launched sales, they are very consistently unwilling to basically give you a mortgage contingency. So if you read the procedure to purchase, which is kind of like the instruction sheet on how to submit an offer for any of these new developments, it'll be somewhere clearly stating that the sponsor will not entertain mortgage contingencies. But if the building has been sitting on the market for a long time, let's say you've stumbled upon a building that launched sales in 2021 and now we're here in 2024 or 2025, will they still have a hardline approach on the mortgage contingency? In our experience, the answer is no. Generally speaking, sponsors are much more willing to consider it and to think about it versus just giving you the blanket no answer, as would be the case if you're looking at a building that just launched sales last week. So if you're risk averse and you don't really want to take this kind of risk, you like the new development, but you're not willing to risk your deposit in the event you perhaps lose your job, then looking at a new development that has been on the market for some time will increase your odds of being able to secure the protection afforded by a mortgage contingency. Another advantage of buying a new construction apartment in New York City that's been on the market for a while is that you're not going to have the same risk of taxes going up in year 2, as is the case with a new construction building that just launched its sales. Now, you may be very confused at this, so let me just break this down. The first component here is to think about what was the building before it was the building that you're looking at. Before you went into the sales gallery of this 50-story building, what was on that piece of land before? Well, odds are it wasn't another 50-story building. It potentially was a vacant lot, or maybe it had a 2-story warehouse on it. What this means is that when the building is finished, the collective value of that plot of land is significantly higher than what it was pre-construction or during construction. And this has implications for property taxes. So if a building is just completed, sales are launched, closings commence, you move in, there's a possibility, or actually a high likelihood, that the assessed value for tax purposes hasn't really yet ramped up to reflect the new higher and best use of the land. So that's why there is one of the key risks you'll find for new construction, as we discuss in our video, and you'll read in the offering plan of any of these buildings, is the fact that the taxes that you see on the listing do not reflect necessarily what you're going to pay in year 2 and beyond. But obviously, if you're looking at a building that was completed in 2021 and it's now 4 years later, well, the taxes have already ramped up to reflect the complete change in assessed value of that plot of land and, by extension, the individual apartment that you're looking at. So your taxes in year 2 are unlikely to skyrocket if you buy a new construction apartment where sales launched a long time ago, closings commenced quite a while ago. Another advantage of buying a new construction apartment that's been on the market for a while is the possibility that you might be able to negotiate some sort of freebie. This is somewhat similar to the first point that we made, but in this case, just want to focus specifically on tangible examples of what you might be able to get for free. We just did a deal recently where it was one of the final 2 apartments in a new development. The building had commenced closings a couple years ago, and because we were the final 2 buyers in the room, basically, we were able to essentially get all of the sponsors' furniture, the furniture that they were using to stage the apartment, for free. They just threw it in for free at no cost as part of the negotiation. Interestingly enough, in that scenario, the developer was unwilling to give a free storage cage. In our experience, sometimes they are very willing to throw in a storage cage or give a huge discount, but we were able to basically negotiate a discounted price for one of the larger remaining storage units in the building. So overall, the buyer felt that it was a very good deal. So just to take a step back, in general, property's been on the market for a long time. The sponsor is probably more willing to play ball with respect to closing costs, with respect to freebies, but not necessarily the price, as we mentioned before, because the price may have already come down quite a bit as a result of it being on the market for some time. So we hope you found this video to be helpful. Remember, do not buy a new construction apartment in New York City without getting a buyer agent commission rebate. You're just leaving money on the table. Commission rebates can save you a huge amount of money, lower your closing costs, and we offer them here at Houseit. So please do get in touch if you'd like to learn more. I'm Nick at Houseit. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.